Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Joy here, and once again, I am back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Princess Peach for the Nintendo DS. So, last time, we somehow managed able to experience the 4th world in this game, which appears to be Fury Volcano, and oh no, we actually did that world pretty good, apart from a few exceptions, which appears to be we missing one toad, which thankfully is not too far, and same applies with the forms of trying to find one of the music boxes and stuff like that, which is also not that far, and in addition to that, we also occasionally managed able to get hit for the likes of not only several hazards, but alongside with the forms of some enemy placements here and there, probably because the forms of hesitation has been involved. So because of that though, but apart from those side of things though, like I said before, we did that world pretty good, and also we did manage able to beat the likes out the next boss in the game, which appears to be none other than Wiggler. So either way, so today for this video is that we are about to be hitting off into the 5th world, which appears to be Wavy Beach, and oh man, this particular world is going to be pretty cool, especially because, well, we can all go to the beach and all that stuff. So either way, and also I just realized that I saw there was actually a chain jump in the background, which I believe something tells me about the fact that when it comes to later sections, that we might able to actually try to avoid that particular chain jump in mind. So either way, let's go and hop into the forms of Wavy Beach. And I'm gonna say, the first piece of the musical track in this world sounds so much more amazing to me, but that's just mainly because it reminds me of so much of a tropical vibes to it, especially because considering about the fact that we're going to be exploring into the beach itself, and what I've noticing this is about the fact that both Sonic and Amy, back in the day that is, they always attempt able to listen to this music, alongside with the forms of another music, which I'll get to it soon enough, during at some point and during the likes of the next Monday, perhaps. So, relatively speaking though, because of all that, it fits the atmosphere very nicely. So either way, so yeah, a few things I want to talk about this is though, and that's what it appears to be for the fact that, well, today's date of course there is the 16th of May today, in some cases in 2025 today, and straight to the point, we're now on to the halfway point in terms of May of 2025 before we move on to the next month, which appears to be June. And speaking of June though, we've only got about 20 more days to go until Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be releasing. So because of that though, and also straight to the point, I've recently pre-ordered not one but 2 items recently, which appears to be, well, remember when I mentioned this about this before, that I will eventually try to get myself the Joy-Con 2 charging grip to able to actually compare to the forms of the regular Joy-Con 2 grip, and as a result, yes, I did somehow manage to obtain that, or as far as I'm aware, for pre-ordering it, and alongside with that, I also did manage to able to order the final HDMI splitter, which can only be used not only for the Wii U, but alongside with the forms of what else? Nintendo Switch 2, and as a result, that way it should be able to actually get everything else finalized in regards to the forms of our video game console cabinets now. So because of that though, well, it's not going to be arriving until specifically the next couple of days or a couple of weeks later, just in case no matter what though, we should be all set in terms of the forms of the gaming industry for our channel anyway. But that's just mainly because still, I just seriously cannot afford to get myself the PlayStation 5 anymore, as well as the Xbox Series X/S, because obviously though, I'm still about to be preparing to get myself Nintendo Switch 2, of course. So either way, so yeah, everything else checks out there, so either way. And also, as far as I'm aware, that I will have to admit to the right away is that particular Lakitu enemy is very annoying in this game, just because not only they move extremely fast, but as well as that, they can be very, very unpredictable with all that odd patterns in between, which either way, it's hard for me to explain about this particular subject though, but regardless of such though, also taking a notice from the likes of Aquatic Ruin Zone boss, from the likes of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, basically though, we can able to hop onto these little spears, which as a result, it allows you to able to go from one place to the other, which not only does it lead us into the second toad right there, but also we can able to continue our progress if, assuming of course about the fact that if Peach sometimes managed able to slip off in some platforms occasionally, although luckily for me we managed able to utilize the Joy emotion vibe, so just in case we can able to skip that section entirely, although unlike the forms of how it does on the future sections, obviously though that won't be the case for, you know, trying to keep on utilizing the Joy vibe, because ever since in Journey Forms of in the Third World, they actually start able to introduce into ourselves these very unexpected glowing ball objects, which that actually prevents us to stop hovering upwards, because otherwise they'll be cheating. So either way, I can see why they try to able to go for this particular points worth noting for. So yeah, anyway, of course we got yet another auto-scrolling section right there, although it's not too noticeable around here, but until specifically in the next couple of worlds later, then obviously that was about the fact that it will start to get a little bit trickier as far as we can able to progress, so... And in fact, speaking of the actual progressioning as far as this is concerned, then I'm pretty sure we're now on to the halfway point in terms of the actual story progression. So, but as far as everything else though, not so much just yet, because obviously that was about the fact that after all, good thing we've already did manage to able to actually just, well, you get the idea what I was expecting for this point, so either way. Also, there's also another thing else I would like to explain to you all. Actually, there was actually a secret around here somewhere, which I'll get to that soon enough. So, either way, now I'm pretty sure that pipe right there will pretty much lead us back all the way from here. But try not to leave this particular part right there, because I'm pretty sure you go slightly backwards, and as a result, that you have to try that particular auto-scrolling section again. But it doesn't matter to me though, because as you can tell, I was gonna able to try to do a lot of, you know, exploration around here, just in case that, you know, trying to get the insane amount of coins will be necessary until you're able to actually go for 400% completion throughout. Like, for instance, though, is about the fact that we are still trying to able to actually go after the next ability, where he forms off charge Umbrella, which I think is what it says anyway. So no matter what though, we can able to expect to able to purchase that particular ability if we do manage to able to actually get enough coins on its disposal. So anyway, so yeah, there's also another explanation I would like to point out to you all, is about the fact that, well, apparently though, we actually finally got ourselves the forms of some brand new information, or should I say, brand new images has been revealed for the likes of Kingdom Hearts 4, and my goodness, it's been 3 years since we've last heard about anything in terms of Kingdom Hearts 4, ever since when it first announced back in 2022, we're able to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Kingdom Hearts franchise. So, yeah, about time actually. And as far as I did saw some more images they did show us, is that, well, for one thing, they've shown us some more gameplay images that involves around combat and stuff like that. Usually it takes place in this unfamiliar, or should I say, the actual new location and stuff like that, that you can able to take control of Sora and all that stuff. And as well as that though, we're able to actually see the full English translated commands menu for the very first time in Kingdom Hearts 4. And suffice to say, it feels a little bit similar to the forms of how it does it for both Kingdom Hearts HD, no way, Kingdom Hearts 0.2, Birth by Sleep, a Fragmentary Passage, and on top of that, Kingdom Hearts 3, with all the user interface, because as far as I'm aware, the commands menu is once again pretty small and all that stuff, but there's actually a new feature that's going to be introduced in Kingdom Hearts 4, and that's what appears to be the build system, which I'm not exactly sure what that does though exactly, but I'm sure enough though it will be pretty interesting once we're able to actually see some more information about the forms of Kingdom Hearts 4 in the later years to come. And in addition to that, also we got ourselves some more screenshots, all thanks to the forms of how the fact that we actually got ourselves a better look at not only Sora himself from the Kingdom Hearts 4 equivalent to him, and I'm gonna say, he does look a little bit older this time around compared to the forms of how it does it for younger age from the past Kingdom Hearts games, ever since the first game all the way up to Kingdom Hearts 3. And my goodness, is it going to be something a little bit more too similar to me as the forms of, you remember how back in Journey forms within the Toy Story original trilogy of films, usually for the sake of the forms of the first Toy Story and Toy Story 2, that Andy was actually very young on those two films in particular, whilst in Toy Story 3, that obviously though he's actually much older, and relatively speaking though he is about to be preparing to go to college, and no matter what though, my goodness, it's like almost like an emotional kind of feel to it, and relatively speaking though, it's going to be quite similar to the forms of ever since right now, all thanks to the forms of some new images has been addressed for the likes of Kingdom Hearts 4, and relatively speaking though, it is going to be quite a shock, doesn't it? But anyways, before we mention more about the forms of Kingdom Hearts related things, as you can see, there's a yet another new ability we somehow got. That's what appears to be Sub-Brilla, which appears to be some sort of like a submarine ability. And basically that was about the fact that it can only be useful once we're able to dive into the underwater section. So because of that though, and obviously though, in order to able to actually make the actual Sub-Brilla decides to float, you have to press the A button rapidly until you're able to actually go upwards. But if you're trying to go down, then you have to start pressing the A button multitude of times. But also, if you try to blow into a mic, basically though, you can able to actually shoot projectiles with it. So for instance though, there's the green cheap sheet right there, and in order to able to defeat it though, I have to blow out one of those projectiles right back at the forms of the enemy. So just in case we can able to actually add that to the forms of one of those enemy books. So, but yeah, that'll be important for later. So, but also I do apologize about the forms of this occasional sniffy sniff sniff kind of sound effects to it, but that's just mainly because, well, luckily I didn't get a cold or anything, but it's just about the fact that sometimes though, that if I was trying to able to breathe or something like that, obviously though I have to like occasionally blow out the forms of my nose sometimes, which I know sounds a little bit odd to say this, but regardless of such though, that's the only thing I have to cope with, I'm afraid. So, and also, speaking of chain jumps, there they are, especially because, well, luckily though, there are some little holes right there we can able to actually go into, so just in case we'll be safe from here, because obviously we can't attack them, because, you know, they are just basically like steel types or anything else like that, so we can pretty much expect at this point. So anyways, let's go up here and try to able to deal with this pokey right there by only trying to go onto anger mode, so just in case we can able to deal with them that way. And also, as far as I've realized, that we now ended up in the quicksand sections. So either way, although thankfully though, the quicksands in general are very generous in this game though, because unlike the forms of how it does in Super Mario Bros. 3, where basically though that the quicksand will instantly kill you if you reach to the bottom, whilst in here though, I don't think there's any death penalties if you do manage to go way further down with the forms of that particular quicksand. So, although you can still able to actually jump out of it though by simply trying to able to keep on jumping, but that's besides the point. So, anyways, so back into what I was saying about the forms of Kingdom Hearts related news. Unfortunately though, along the same time as the forms, we got something new for the likes of Kingdom Hearts 4, which I'm super happy about. Unfortunately though, one of those games in particular has officially been cancelled, and that's what appears to be none other than the latest project, which appears to be Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. And oh boy, I think the only reason why that particular game is now being officially being cancelled is most likely due to difficulties of developing it, which, despite the fact that we've already experienced the closed beta version ever since in the past, and relatively speaking, after they've somehow realized the actual project of Kingdom Hearts Missing Link has now officially cancelled. So that's now the second Kingdom Hearts game has been cancelled, next to the forms of, let's just say, I don't know exactly what the other game has also been cancelled, which I know for a fact it has been some time since I actually have looked upon the forms of some cancelled projects from any other game makers or filmmakers or anything else like that. So relatively speaking, I was about the fact that it is such a shame that Kingdom Hearts Missing Link has now officially been cancelled. So because of that though, well, it was originally trying to able to actually bring in a brand new release date for that particular game on the iOS or Android phones, but ultimately though, like I said before, that does not go according to plan. So because of that though, yeah, it kind of sucks to able to actually see that game got cancelled, like I said before. I mean, relatively speaking, though, it's about the fact that I'm still very excited about the forms of Kingdom Hearts 4 still, and let's just hope about the fact that that game will be a part of the forms of not only be released on PlayStation 5, alongside with the forms of Xbox Series X/S, and maybe potentially PC, and maybe hopefully with Nintendo Switch 2 released as well. But my only main concern with that though, and my only biggest problem with that particular Switch 2 prediction for that particular game in mind, is that I'm really hoping it will not, I repeat, I refuse to able to let Kingdom Hearts 4 to be on cloud version, because if it does, well, obviously though, I'm just gonna say I basically give up on the actual industry about the forms of that particular stupid cloud version, because, well, you get the idea, because as far as I'm aware, though I'm pretty sure about the fact that the most of these Kingdom Hearts games on Cloud version on Switch 1, I'm afraid that those games will not be playable on Switch 2, at least as far as I'm aware. So yeah, it's definitely a missed opportunity, because I was assuming they'll try to able to actually bring the native version of the majority of the Kingdom Hearts games onto Switch 2, but unfortunately though, that's not the case, I'm afraid. So because of that though, I mean, still, no matter what though, my expectations might be basically in the middle, while at the same time though, I'm a little bit more skeptical when it comes to likely for future plans, for the sake of the forms of physical Switch 2 stuff, which, as far as I'm aware, it's even bad enough about the fact that we're, you know, the majority of the third-party supportive games for the Nintendo Switch 2 has now suffered the forms of the stupid game key card system, which, you know, is a massive, massive backlash for that particular point worth noting for, especially if that, well, still, I'm just a little bit skeptical with the forms of the future aspects when it comes to, you know, the majority of the third-party supportive Nintendo Switch 2 stuff. Well, apart from the fact that still, that Cyberpunk 2077 is the only Switch 2 game, physical-wise, on third-party supportive games, was actually on full cartridge and all that stuff, which, yeah, it's hard for me to explain about this particular topics worth noting for, but that's besides the point. So it looks like there might be something up there, which I suppose we need to able to try to find those spears onto those specific walls, which, sure enough, we actually did somehow found some. So either way, now I'm pretty sure it's about the fact that there must be a toad around here somewhere. Ah, jeez, that's not even high enough, but I'm sure enough though, yeah, I saw there's another toad up there, which hopefully we'll try to find him. So either way, let's just go and hop on to the third spear. And, oh, dang it, I timed it a little bit too early, so, whoops. But it doesn't matter, because obviously, though, that it's not going to be that long for this entire process for finding several toads from here. There we go, that's more like it. But I believe that doesn't end off here, because there was actually going to be one of those pipes that we can now able to actually entering into, so, anyway. So, yeah, with that being said, though, is about the fact that there's also another screenshot has been found for the likes of Kingdom Hearts 4, and it may look like we might able to actually play as yet another playable character in Kingdom Hearts 4. That's what appears to be none other than Mickey Mouse, which is actually pretty cool, especially concerning for that particular point of how the fact that after the events of not only Kingdom Hearts 2, for some aspects, and usually, relatively speaking, this also applies for Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC, where basically though is about the fact that in those two games in particular, you can able to actually play as Mickey Mouse, but only for a short period of time. Like, for instance though, if you die on some bosses, like in Kingdom Hearts 2 for instance, if you die on some boss fights ranging from let's just say, Shang Yi from the likes of the Land of Dragons, and in addition to, one of the Heartless bosses in Beast's Castle, and in addition to Cerberus, the Hydra, I believe is what it says anyway, on, Olympus Coliseum, and in addition to the forms of, Zaldin boss fight from the likes of the forms of in Beast's Castle, and heck, even especially noticeable with the forms of, well, let's just say the Dragon Rider boss fight from the likes of the Land of Dragons on the second part, where basically that is about the fact that you can realistically try to able to take control of Mickey Mouse for a short period of time, to able to actually try to able to bring Sora back to life. And no matter what though is about the fact that that might be the only scenario if you try to able to go after one of those trophies on PlayStation 3 or PlayStation 4, and even nowadays with the achievements on PC Steam, as well as the forms of, you know, Xbox. So, and then meanwhile for the likes of the forms of Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC, that you can able to actually play as Mickey Mouse on the ending section of that particular DLC. Well, mind you, it's been like, you know, 5 years since that particular DLC was first released, back in 2020, before the actual lockdown was a thing, of course. So, either way. So, still, no matter what though is about the fact that I'm still very curious to know what the actual gameplay style is it going to be. Although I'm sure enough though, much like in Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC, that I'm pretty sure Mickey can only do attack at the moment during the forms of one of those screenshots, and suffice to say, I'm pretty sure the location is going to take place in during the forms of in let's just say that familiar location since in the finale of Kingdom Hearts 3, so I'm sure enough though, it will be kind of interesting to be able to actually know how this gameplay actually plays out, among all others as well, so either way. But then again though, we'll have to wait and see what happens though, just because, well, it kind of reminds me back in June Evolve's been some time, not only for the likes of in 2013, but all the way up to 2015 if I could recall, that as far as I'm aware, Kingdom Hearts 4 is basically still in development at this point in time, so I'm really expecting that, I'm hoping that game will be finalized until specifically in the next couple of years to come. So either way, we shall wait and see. So because of that though, because you know, unlike Kingdom Hearts Missing Link though, that it's officially been cancelled, you know. And it did say on the article, thanks to the faults of the development team announcement. So as a result, it did state this on the actual official Kingdom Hearts Missing Link X account, so either way, or Twitter account if you prefer the good old days when it comes to naming those social media accounts. So either way, they did state this: we have made the decision to cancel the development of Kingdom Hearts Missing Link. We wish to confer our heartfelt apologies to everyone who has been looking forward to the start of service. Although we worked hard on developing and adjusting the game in the hope that it would be enjoyed by a lot of players, we demanded that it would be difficult for us to offer a service that players would find satisfactory over a long period of time, leading us to the decision to cancel development. We would like to take this opportunity to express our thanks to everyone who give us their support and assistance with the multiple closed beta tests. We are truly sorry to have to make this announcement. The Kingdom Hearts series will continue. We are hard at work on Kingdom Hearts 4 and hope you'll continue to support the series, and as you can keep an eye on the future updates, or further updates I should say. So yeah, and I do apologize for that particular tongue twist in the end folks, but that's just mainly because the writing, as far as I did manage to look up on it, is ridiculously small for what I've noticed. Well, mind you about the fact that, yeah, it's a definition of the forms of, you know, kind of unfortunate, because that will get us a huge opportunity about the fact that it will be kind of similar to the forms of how it does it on not only Pokemon Go, but also with the forms of Pikmin Bloom as well. I mean, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, yeah, it kind of sucks that we're not going to be able to see some potential worlds they're trying to add it in for the likes of Kingdom Hearts Missing Link, so oh well, no big deal. So yeah, because like I said before, we're now down to 2 cancelled Kingdom Hearts games so far. So as a result, yeah, you can definitely get the idea of what this is going. Especially how everything else gets a bit slightly complicated, especially because trying to make games can take a very long time, is a bit convoluted sometimes, and if it doesn't plan out, then obviously they have no choice but to be able to cancel out the project and straight to the point. Well, because usually, relatively speaking, though, because when I see a couple of gameplay footages in the past, it does look almost complete. Well, there might be some technical issues from time to time, but ultimately, though, unlike something related to the forms of one of those games on the PlayStation 2, alongside with the forms of the Nintendo GameCube, not what appears to be Tiny Toon Adventures, Defenders of the Universe, where basically, though, it is also kind of unfortunate about the fact that that game is also being cancelled officially. And as a result, despite the fact that the game itself is being complete, although despite with the missing sound files as far as I'm aware, but from what I've seen the gameplay footage on the actual specific alpha kind of footage or something like that, it does look very promising, although it's placed more accurately like a dodgeball kind of game. And relatively speaking, I was about the fact, yeah, it's a bit of a shame that game is being cancelled, all things considered, back in sometime in 2002 and stuff like that, so anyway, so let's go and go back into this game for right now for Super Princess Peach to be able to actually try and go into the next level, which is of course World 5-4. and I'm generally surprised about the fact that we've almost finishing the entire world so far. I mean, sure, no matter what though, is about the fact that, like I said before, the more we get into the further worlds, specifically with the forms of not only this world, but alongside with the forms of World 6, 7, and finally World 8, then we can able to expect about the fact that the length of the actual world might feel a bit extremely lengthy, depending on the forms of certain levels you go into, so either way. So, yeah, that's as far as we can able to actually discuss upon in terms of the forms of today's subject. I mean, relatively speaking, I was about the fact that, although there's also worth knowing for too, we've only just got about exactly 4 months left until the Super Mario Bros. Is going to be celebrating the 40th anniversary. So because of that though, yeah, stay tuned for that particular upcoming project for our channel, especially because, well, it is going to be worth it. So either way, but I can't tell you exactly what it is just yet, because obviously though, it's a bit too early to judge. So, and also we have to avoid those little waves here, so just in case we don't want to get blown back. In fact, it kind of reminds me of one of those sections in Dusty Desert, specifically in, I would say, in Shadows and Silver section of Dusty Desert, where you have to avoid that particular waves of sand until you're able to actually progress, as far as I'm aware. So either way, let's go and grab some more coins here, so just in case we can able to buy some more, you know, more items along the way. So oh, and also, as far as I'm aware, that back in Journey Forms in the previous world, which is of course World 4, that we've actually come across into yet another minigame we did somehow unlocked, which appears to be Toad Trot, which I believe that particular minigame utilizes stylus controls, whilst compared to the forms of how it does it on Toad Jump, that utilizes the actual microphone, which, truth be told, I did manage to able to test this out, and sure enough though, the microphone luckily did manage to work out. So, but then again, we're probably not going to dive into the minigame section just yet until specifically later on, because, you know, we're going to able to focusing around platforming parts here and there, just before you're able to actually dive into some extra stuff here and there. So, also, what the heck is up with the forms that cannonball-like enemy-like? Although, truth be told though, is about the fact that we still need to try and able to avoid it, so either way, time to burn this bridge down, to able to grab some more coins, while at the same time though, just to try to keep on jumping out of the forms of the quicksand. So, but yeah, again, like I said, there's nothing else I can really say, apart from the fact it is nice about the fact that we can finally get a chance to hear more about Kingdom Hearts 4 again after the events of ever since in 2022. So all it needs left now is just that, well, there might be some speculations, I guess, coming up soon when it comes to likely for Kingdom Hearts 4's release. So as a result though, we still have no idea what the actual Disney worlds they're trying to bring us into. So let's just see what really happens if the actual development is still ongoing in terms of the forms of Kingdom Hearts 4. So either way, so there we go, we somehow managed to now finally purchase the Charge Brilla, which obviously if you hold down the B button and if you let go once it starts flashing continuously, then you can perform a projectile attack. So as a result, you know, think of like the forms of how it does it for the charged Mega Buster from the likes of Mega Man 4, 5, 6, and I would say 7 and 8 as well, including Mega Man and Bass as well. Although, unlike Mega Man 9 and Mega Man 10, they somehow strip back in the forms of how it does it from the likes of Bandy's similar movesets as the forms of Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 1, because in Mega Man 3, they introduced it to the forms of sliding maneuvering, so you get the idea what I'm talking about, especially it's been like, you know, a couple of years ago since we last played a couple of classic Mega Man games thanks to Mega Man Marathon to able to celebrate the release of the existence of Mega Man 11, which, again, it is such a shock about the fact that we still haven't exactly heard about anything in terms of Mega Man or classic Mega Man since Mega Man 11. Like, I don't know how many years that Mega Man 11 did somehow first came out, which I'm pretty sure it's been like almost 7 years ago since the actual Mega Man 11 did somehow came out, and there's still no sign of the newest installment, which appears to be Mega Man 12, because, well, I just have no idea at this point in time, so anyways, let's go ahead and continue things on here, and straight to the point, I'm pretty sure for the fact that no matter what though, we can able to go into some more submarine sections at some point, so either way, I wonder what's up there. And it may look like, yep, those little white stuff just somehow stops us from doing so, because once again we have to hop onto one of those spear arrows in order able to actually make our all the way up there, which I'm assuming that will be the case, so... But yeah, that's as far as I can try to say about the forms of today's discussion. And also, chain jumps! Although thankfully that was about the fact that in order to get rid of them is by simply you have to activate anger mode, so either way. Oh yeah, something tells me about the fact I must able to actually make my way to one of those routes or something like that, so... And I accidentally fall into the bottomless pit, as you saw, but that's mainly because no matter what though, I didn't pay attention to any of those specific stuff worth knowing for. There's the actual, the spear right here, which we definitely need to traverse into this part right here while I was trying to duck, so just in case we don't want to get hit by these little spiky balls, so... There we go, first toad found in World 5-5, and I've realized about the fact that I've once again missing one toad again, but don't worry though, I'll be back for it once we've gone for the entire world itself, so either way. Although it may take a bit while though, especially because of all that. Well, it feels remarkably similar to the forms of how it does it in both World 3 and World 4 so far, that we do have to occasionally try to able to go through certain sections that's almost like, well, it's hard for me to explain about this particular subject though, because it's been about a couple of hours ago since I actually have last played this game for sure, and straight to the point, until tomorrow, that Lola Bunny will be prepared to go back into Pony Card DS at some point until tomorrow, as well as Sunday as well, so that will be a ton of fun, especially because, yeah, for I've still managed to heard about it, that obviously though, that Lola Bunny, she's actually really enjoying the actual ROM hack so far, especially because of all that, well, you get the idea for this point, so... Alright, so far so good, especially we somehow found the second toad on this stage. Oh, and also as far as I'm aware, is about the fact that recently though, CapKing74, or Stuart to be more specifically, he's now on to the bonus content for the sake of the forms of Super Mario RPG, specifically the Switch version as a remake, just because no matter what though, that the Switch version actually offers a lot more than that, because you know, they've now added in, you know, extra harder variations of some boss fights, and in addition to that, a lot of replay value decides to come in, and also much like the forms of how it does it on Kingdom Hearts Final Mix, both 1 and 2, basically though, it is now possible for you to be able to actually go onto the actual, or just simply just go back into the actual game itself, rather than just staring at the forms of the end screen for hours and hours and hours, because unlike the original versions, that you can't skip these little credit sequence, because obviously though you're basically stuck with the forms of the end screen, and there's no way to able to escape from it, which kind of does that in the good old days of the retro games, ranging from, let's just say Super Mario Bros. 3 for instance, and in addition to Super Mario World, and in addition to the original version of Super Mario RPG, and in addition to the original Paper Mario as well. And not only that though, the original version of Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2, the original version on the PlayStation 2 versions. So yeah, you can get the idea for that specific knowledge worth noting for, because gee, no wonder why. In the original Kingdom Hearts 2 version on PlayStation 2, that once you defeat Final Zonus as the final boss, basically though you don't get anything rewarding, although unlike the Final Mix version, you do get something, which appears to be, I would say, drive gauge powered up onto by 1. So that's as far as I was able to explain about that. I mean, mind you, it's been quite some time actually since I actually have last played Kingdom Hearts 2, specifically the Final Mix version on PlayStation 4, because obviously that was about the fact that there is no way in heck I refused able to get on the Switch just because of all that. You know what I'm saying, there's no native version, so instead it's all about the cloud editions, and I was like, still, while looking back on it though, it just feels a bit mind-numbing to me, especially because of all that. Well, again, Wi-Fi is required in order able to actually play the game accessibility as far as I'm aware, plus because for what I can tell, the game just sometimes lags if you're not close enough to the actual good Wi-Fi services, so yeah, definitely a missed opportunity back then, since in 2022, so you can get the idea. So also, there's a whole groups of those sad Goombas there. We definitely need to avoid them, even though they can be felt a bit unpredictable at times, whenever they did manage to show up, for almost like nothing else. So, jeez, how am I supposed to avoid that while I was on the actual process of trying to sunk myself with the actual quicksand? But the reason why I have to do this is because apparently there's going to be something down there, which, yeah, in order to able to get rid of this little weird sand obstacle, basically though you have to activate the gloom vibe. So just in case, you can able to actually miraculously try to able to actually wet the actual sand, and as a result, that way it should be able to get rid of it. Oh, gosh darn it. You know what, I was going to ignore you for now because you have no usage of me. And I'm pretty sure in this part right here, I'm not exactly sure how do I explain this though, because relatively speaking, that was about the fact that there might be something like, well, I don't know about you, because again, it has been about a couple of hours since I actually last played this, you know? This is filled to the brim with a lot of sheeps everywhere, and that's it. Okay, that's the end of the level. Although, despite the fact I accidentally managed to dodge the turnip, which as a result, it only gives me just 1 coin, which is pretty worthless. Although, unlike something like a star, it does manage to give you whopping 50 coins, which is definitely worth it. So, anyway, onwards to the next boss, but before we do that, ever since in World 2, we're going back into rotating the actual log scenario, except now, it's going to be a little bit trickier just because of all that different pattern with that particular spear coming out either too fast or too slow. So again, no matter what though, always have to make sure just do not rush and just take your time. So either way. So I'm sure enough though is about the fact that this will be the last time for doing this particular challenge, because we're relatively speaking though until likely World 6, and dang it. Hesitation. So anyway, as I was saying, for the fact that no matter what though, this will be the last time for doing this little rotating the log kind of thing itself, because until likely World 6, World 7, and the final world, World 8, obviously though we might come across into some familiar challenges that we've already experienced with utilizing touchscreen a lot, for the likes of the forms of the, you know, while looking back in World 1, and World 3, and World 4 respectively, so... But then again, for the most part, this is not too bad. It's just that you have to take your time. So either way, just don't rush or don't hesitate as much as I did, especially because of that unpredictable pattern movements with the speed of the actual spears coming out for it. So either way, we've made it to the next boss, and straight to the point, we might come across into a familiar boss fight, which again, if you played Super Mario Sunshine before, you know exactly what I'm talking about, which is kind of cool about the fact that we actually come across into certain familiar boss fights from the likes of in Super Mario Sunshine so far, which is very convenient. So, and sure enough, there's 1 tentacle and 2, oh geez, 4 tentacles. Gee, I wonder who that could be. Oh, hello there. I have not seen you ever since Super Mario Sunshine, of course. Ever since not only in Record Harbor, but alongside with the forms of Nuki Bay. So yes, here we have ourselves Gloopy Blooper, which as a result, except now, we have to now defeat him in a 2D perspective, which obviously though, this particular phase of the fight, you have to simply try to take down his tentacles at first, but then you have to watch out for this little goopy stuff, because otherwise, if you dare manage to touch these little goopy stuff while he spits at you, they obviously they will try to hurt you. But if you use the gloom vibe like I was doing right there, that way it allows me to able to get rid of these little black goop stuff on the ground. Because otherwise, if you walk on them, you will slip and slide all over the place. Very much like the forms of how it does in Super Mario Sunshine, but except the fact that we are no longer utilizing Flood or anything. So yeah, that's what happens right there if you get hit by one of his black spewing projectiles. So and then once the actual weak spot decides to show up onto its mouth, it's your chance to be able to attack him, so either way. But there is a catch to this though. If you get caught by a tentacle like I just did right there, I believe I somehow got hit twice, so either way. Definitely a little bit trickier than he evolves of how it does on the previous boss fights, as we've already encountered it though. Well, nothing compares to the evolves of how it does on the later fights though, because my goodness. That, for what I've heard, that both Sonic and Amy did somehow first experience, well, the final boss in the game. They did have a lot of struggles back in the day, which as a result, yeah, we'll discuss more about that in the future days to come. So either way, especially noticeable considering about the fact that we've almost nearly at the end of May, before we move on to the 6th month, which is of course June, and it's also worth reassuring about the fact that we've almost at the end of the first half of 2025, before we move on to the second half, so, which you get the idea what I'm talking about. So anyway, so now we're on to the last hit, and be sure you need to activate one of those emotions, specifically anger emotion, because as you can see, he caused a bubble to appear, and what that does is that he can able to regenerate health. So yeah, you have to make sure you need to get rid of the bubble as fast as you could, because otherwise, if you don't, you have to restart the entire fight again if you're not fast enough. So either way, so that'll be a pro tip. So either way, time for last hit, and booyah! There goes Glooper Blooper. Even though it's a little bit odd about the fact that the Glooper Blooper in this game in particular was actually a lot more huger than I was expecting, so, but hopefully we'll meet up with the forms of Glooper Blooper again, not only for the likes of the forms, if I were to say, Mario Tennis Aces, alongside with the forms of Paper Mario the Origami King, and in addition to, other Paper Mario game which I refuse to talk about, which obviously forces you to use the correct things and stickers and shenanigans and stuff like that, and ugh, I'm sorry, it's just that I can totally see why that Paper Mario Sticker Star is now the definition of the worst Paper Mario game ever, because, well, you get the idea, it just ruins the lack of anything, like character development, and also the lack of unique themes, and not only that though, the themes themselves are so generic, and you get the idea what I was explaining about things, so. But yeah, like I said before, there's nothing else I can really say, it's just about the fact that the only thing that matters to me the most is about the fact that at the very least that we can now able to actually get some future predictions about the forms of what happens for Kingdom Hearts 4 and stuff like that, so. Oh yeah, there's also reassuring about this as well, that recently though, for those of you who lived in Japan, that apparently though, that Nintendo Switch 2 receives the first Japanese commercials, and the first one out of the lineup, which appears to be, well, they somehow recently added in Mario Kart World commercials in Japan so far, just because, you know, you get the idea, we've only just got about 20 more days to go until, you know, Nintendo Switch 2 is releasing, alongside with the forms of Mario Kart World, so yeah, that's gonna be total the excitement. So, it is also reassuring about this too, I'm pretty sure for the fact that no matter what though, we've only got about 2 months left until not only Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to be releasing for Nintendo Switch 2, but alongside with the forms of Super Mario Party Jamboree, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, plus Jamboree TV. And I'm pretty sure we've only got about three months left now until Kirby and the Forgotten Land, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition, plus Sky Crossed World. Because, as far as I'm aware, still, no matter what though, if those specific Switch 2 Edition physical games were able to expect it to be releasing, obviously though, I'm only going to be going for the physical versions if they have additional content, not so much the forms of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, because they're both played very identical to the Switch 1 version to me though, although they did manage to able to address the forms of improved frame rate and in addition to visuals as well. So because of that though, yeah, I'm only going to be sticking around with just only one version for the time when it comes to likely both of those games in particular, because, well, aside from the fact that it's kind of a shame about the fact that you don't get the DLC voucher with it for the sake of the forms of Breath of the Wild Tears of the Kingdom, because you have to purchase that again. So yeah, no matter what though, it's definitely a well, you get the idea for that point. So anyway, let's head back into World 5-3, to able to try to find the one last toad in that particular world of Wavy Beach. And suffice to say, I was really looking forward to able to dive into the next world coming up, and that's what appears to be World 6, called Glim Glacier. So because of that though, and suffice to say though, I was really looking forward to able to listening to, without a doubt, is the most peaceful music of all time when it comes to likely for this game in particular, which, yeah, we'll have to wait on that, enjoying at some point until on Monday, so either way, yeah, it was this bit I was missing on, and that's what appears to be in this part, because, well, I'm pretty sure enough though, it's because I didn't pay attention to the surroundings as much, so either way. Oh, and by the way, in order able to go all the way down, by the way, you have to use a cyclone, by the way, so just in case you can able to actually go down here, and that way you would find the missing toad I was on about. So either way, so of course we'll leave the stage, and that pretty much does it for Wavy Beach, at least for now, like I said before, because there's going to be more to it than that at some point in the future. So with that being said, well, it looks like we've only got 3 worlds left at this point. So with that being said, folks, is that we get endings off this point right here. So join me next time for some more of Let's Play of Super Princess Peach for the Nintendo DS. Is that we're about to be going into, without a doubt, is my favorite world in the entire game, and that's what appears to be Glim Glacier in World 6, not only because of the atmosphere, but the music. Oh man, the music is going to be so good. So I'll see you guys until on Monday. Later, fellas.